Happy New Year and welcome to this webinar sharing insights from Good Reason Houston's Post-Secondary Research Initiative. My name is Patrick Gill and I'm Good Reason Houston's Director of Research and Data. I'll be guiding you through today's exploration of post-secondary outcomes for Houston Region high school graduates. Today's presentation is really the culmination of over a year's worth of work trying to better understand how students' experiences during their time in the K-12 system connect to their long-term outcomes years after they graduate high school. Specifically, we looked at how graduates are doing at attaining post-secondary credentials and earning living wages by their mid-20s. Good Reason Houston took on this work to deepen our region's understanding of the post-secondary landscape for our graduates, to inform our own organizational strategies and priorities in the work we do with districts and policymakers, and to hopefully spark a broad public conversation about how well we're currently setting our students up for long-term success and what we can do better. We really wanted to identify and hone in on specific experiences in K-12 that seem most predictive of post-secondary success so that we can collaborate across sectors to ensure that we're maximizing those opportunities for students. Normally, I'd prefer to be sharing this information with you all live so you could ask questions and share your thoughts, but I'm actually a few weeks into parental leave when you're watching this, having recently welcomed a new son into my family. So apologies for recording this ahead of time, but also I'm not that sorry. Okay, that preamble aside, let's jump in. Before I get into our findings, I'll share a few key things to keep in mind about our study and the data we used for our analysis. First, you'll hear me use the term Houston Region a lot today. When I say Houston Region, I'm referring to the geography you see here. Our region, as Good Reason Houston defines it, encompasses 11 local school districts and any charter school campuses that fall within their boundaries. All told, our region's public schools serve nearly 700,000 students, more than 3/4 of whom are economically disadvantaged, and more than 80% of whom are Black or Hispanic. Moving on to this study specifically, we used 3 primary data sources for our analysis. First, Texas Education Agency, or TEA data, on high school graduates. TEA data provided information like student demographics, academic achievement, participation in programs such as career technical education, and college readiness. We also used Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board data on college enrollment and completion in the state of Texas, and we used Texas Workforce Commission data on employment and earnings. This study focused primarily on the high school class of 2017, looking at where they were and what they were doing in 2023, 6 years after high school graduation. I won't go into everything on this slide, but feel free to pause the video if you want to review any of these key definitions or other notes that are on here. A few things I will specifically call out, though. I'll talk a lot about post-secondary credential attainment, and when I say that, I'm referring not just to bachelor's degrees, but also to associate's degrees and professional certifications levels 1 and 2. We were trying to take as broad a view of credential attainment as possible when we undertook this study. The living wage threshold, which you'll hear me talk about, for a single earner household with no dependents in Harris County in 2023 was $42,158 in annual salary. And finally, if you see on the slide or hear me say accounting for other factors, that means I'm sharing results from statistical modeling that aims to consider factors we know influence student outcomes like their demographics and socioeconomic status. Okay, this is the last slide of introduction before I move into the meat of the presentation, I promise. This slide outlines the statistical methods we used in this analysis. I won't go into all the details, but just know that the goal of using statistical modeling is to try to isolate the effects of how students' K-12 experiences influence their post-secondary outcomes, taking into account other things we know matter. And now that we've gotten through all that, let's talk about what we actually found. Our work, which I'll jump into more in depth momentarily, surfaced 3 key insights. First, far too few of our graduates are attaining post-secondary credentials, with only 27% of the class of 2017 having gotten some kind of credential by 2023. Second, credential attainment is important because having a post-secondary credential really matters to graduates' chances of earning a living wage. Graduates with bachelor's degrees or professional certifications were at least 3 times more likely to earn a living wage than graduates with no post-secondary credentials. And finally, our research found that an accumulation of rigorous academic experiences in K-12, such as meeting grade level standards on STAR tests, taking Algebra 1 in middle school, or taking 5 or more advanced courses in high school provided graduates much higher chances of attaining a credential within 6 years of high school graduation. Now let's dive deeper into how post-secondary outcomes look across the Houston region. Here we see college enrollment rates and post-secondary credential attainment for the classes of 2012 and 2017 within 6 years of high school graduation. You can see that both college enrollment rates and the proportion of graduates attaining credentials was essentially flat over the course of the 2010s, and that barely 1 in 4 of our high school graduates attained a credential within 6 years of high school. I said college enrollment was flat between 2012 and 2017, but just looking at those 2 years in isolation obscures that college enrollment rates did fluctuate over that time. Generally speaking, they've been on the decline, even if the class of 2017 saw a noticeable uptick. More recent classes in 2020 and 2021 were far less likely to enroll in college within the first 2 years of high school graduation than previous classes, likely reflecting pandemic-related learning losses. If these numbers don't improve, though, we are unlikely to see increased post-secondary credential attainment. You can't get a credential if you never enroll in college in the first place. And those credentials matter. Here you see the median earnings for graduates 6 years after high school by different credential types. The dotted gray line represents the living wage threshold of $42,158 in Harris County in 2023. Only graduates with bachelor's degrees had median earnings over that line, although those with professional certifications were right there. Graduates with no credential, on the other hand, had earnings more than $11,000 below the living wage mark. Professional certifications are credentials awarded by two-year colleges that often require only a semester or even a handful of courses to complete. Given that they provide close to living wage earnings 6 years after high school, they may represent a low-cost, high-reward option for many graduates. But right now, only about 2% of our high school graduates are earning one. Here, too, we see that graduates with bachelor's degrees and professional certifications were much more likely to earn a living wage than their peers with no post-secondary credential. Even so, less than half of 2017 graduates with credentials earned a living wage, and only 20% of graduates overall earned a living wage 6 years after high school. So those numbers weren't super encouraging. Low credential attainment, only 1 in 5 graduates earning a living wage. What can we do about it? Well, let's look now at how K-12 experiences connect to students' post-secondary outcomes to identify strategies to improve those numbers. First, we'll focus on how K-12 experiences relate to post-secondary credential attainment. We examined several experiences students can have in K-12, but 3 in particular stood out as increasing their chances of attaining a post-secondary credential. Looking left to right on the graph, you see the relationship between credential attainment and meeting grade level standards on 8th grade STAR reading, taking 5 or more advanced courses in high school, and taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade. All 3 of these rigorous academic experiences were associated with a significant increase in a graduate's chances of attaining a credential, even accounting for factors like demographics and socioeconomic status. In particular, taking 5 or more advanced courses in high school seemed especially beneficial. Graduates who took 5+ advanced courses were predicted to be 22 percentage points more likely to get a credential than those who didn't take 5 or more advanced courses. Now, I know you might be thinking, I don't know, 5 or more advanced courses, that seems like a pretty high bar, doesn't it, Patrick? How realistic of an expectation is that? Well, over half, 57% of 2017 graduates already did it. So we actually do think it's pretty realistic to provide more opportunities for more graduates to take that many advanced courses before they graduate high school. Now let's look at how these academic experiences work together. The next 2 slides are set up the same way, so I'm going to walk you through what you're looking at. On the left on this slide, you have graduates who did not take 5 or more advanced courses in high school. And on the right, you have those who did take 5 or more advanced courses in high school. The orange bars reflect graduates who did not meet 8th grade STAR reading standards, while the teal bars reflect those who did. So you can see that the least likely group to attain degrees are those in the far left orange bar, those that didn't meet 8th grade STAR reading standards or take 5+ advanced courses. However, if we look at the other orange bar, Those who didn't meet 8th grade star reading but did take 5 or more advanced courses were still 8 points more likely than those who did pass 8th grade star reading but didn't take 5 or more advanced courses to attain a credential. So in direct comparison, if you only had to do one thing, if you had to choose one between passing 8th grade star reading or taking 5 or more advanced courses in high school, taking 5 or more courses gave you the better shot of attaining a credential. The most likely group, though, is those doing both together, combining these rigorous academic experiences of taking 5 or more advanced courses in high school and passing 8th grade star reading. That's the far right teal bar. So this is a similar setup, but now we're looking at those that did not take 5 or more advanced courses on the left, those that did on the right. And the teal bar now represents graduates who did take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and the orange bar reflects those who did not take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. As before, the least likely group to get degrees are in the far left orange bar, the ones who didn't take Algebra 1 in 8th grade or take 5 or more advanced courses in high school. Also, as before, if you have to choose one of these experiences, taking 5 or more advanced courses but not taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade is better than taking Algebra 1 but not taking 5 or more advanced courses. Again, though, the best thing you can do is to combine these rigorous academic experiences. So the real question these results present is how we can work with our education system to ensure that all students have access to a variety of rigorous academic experiences that meet their needs and preferences. If combining multiple rigorous experiences is the best thing graduates can do, we need to make sure that all students, regardless of background, have access to doing so if they choose. Now let's look at our work connecting students' K-12 experiences to their chances of earning a living wage. As you might expect, given what we just saw about how important attaining credentials is to earning a living wage, the same academic experiences which predict credential attainment also predict earning a living wage. Meeting grade level standards on STAR 8th grade reading, taking 5 or more advanced courses in high school, and taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade all increased graduates' chances of earning a living wage. The single best predictor of earning a living wage, though, was whether or not graduates had attained a post-secondary credential. Again, even accounting for factors like demographics and socioeconomic status. Graduates with credentials were 17 percentage points more likely to earn a living wage than those without one. Attentive listeners, though, may be thinking, wait a minute, Patrick, I've been taking copious notes on the incredible information you're sharing today, and you definitely said earlier that only 13% of graduates with no credential earned a living wage. What gives? Well, studious listener, it is true that in terms of raw percentages, only 13% of graduates with no credential earned a living wage. It is also unfortunately true, though, that things like a graduate's demographics or socioeconomic background matter a lot to their earning projections. And when you start accounting for those factors through statistical modeling, you see narrower gaps in living wage attainment between graduates with credentials and those without. And that's what is reflected here. Again, though, even accounting for those things, credential attainment was still the #1 predictor of earning a living wage, and there was still a very large gap in terms of predicted chances of getting a living wage between those that had a credential and those that didn't. Okay, that was a lot of information. So let's spend the last few minutes reflecting on what we think it all means. I think this work provides 3 main insights. First, rigorous academic experiences matter and give students a better chance of both attaining a post-secondary credential and of earning a living wage. All of the academic experiences we looked at predicted both credential attainment and earning a living wage, but it was advanced course taking that really stood out, especially for credential attainment. Second, though advanced course taking stood out, it was really combining multiple rigorous academic experiences that gave graduates the largest boost. And third, because of that, we should focus on ensuring all students have access to a variety of rigorous academic experiences that fit their desired pathways. Only 20% of 2017 graduates earned a living wage 6 years after high school, which is simply unacceptable. Expanding access to rigorous academic experiences can potentially change that. Building off these insights, I think the research shared today has a few really practical implications. First, that post-secondary credentials remain critical to long-term success. I think there's a narrative out there around the diminished value of a college degree and that questions whether going to college is even worth it. I think this work shows that if you want to earn family-sustaining wages, you really do still need some type of post-secondary credential. And that means that we need to work together across sectors, from education to business to higher education to philanthropy, to provide students with the variety of rigorous academic experiences that will set them up for long-term success. This doesn't just mean expanding access to things like AP courses or dual enrollment programs at community colleges, although both of those things matter. Advanced coursework also encompasses advanced CTE coursework that are aligned with high-wage, non-bachelor's degree fields. So we should focus on building partnerships with industry leaders to enhance the value of those experiences as well. Finally, I want to emphasize that this work is not trying to send us back to a world where we're pushing every student to earn a bachelor's degree. Although this work underscores the importance of post-secondary credentials, it also highlights the viability of non-four-year pathways. In particular, it found that professional certifications, which are earned at community colleges and only take a handful of courses to complete, are the next best thing to a bachelor's degree when it comes to your chances of earning a living wage. Expanding awareness of and access to these programs, and especially tying those programs to relevant CTE programs in high school, may be a low-cost, high-reward opportunity for our region. Finally, I'll wrap by sharing how Good Reason Houston is leveraging this research in our ongoing efforts to improve education in Houston. First, we plan to spread the awareness of these findings by sharing them with a variety of audiences and stakeholders invested in the success of our education system. As an example, I'll be taking a short break from my parental leave in late January to give a keynote address at Bridgeyear's annual Post-Secondary Pathways Conference, which we're excited to co-host this year. I encourage all of you, if you're interested in these findings today, to attend this conference. I think it'll be really insightful. Next, we're also gearing up for the 2025 legislative session, which by the time you're listening to this may have already started. We've already been sharing these results with lawmakers and legislative offices, and we'll continue to do so as we work to expand access to rigorous academic experiences. And finally, our district partnerships team will be working with our school district partners to help them ensure that their programs are equitably providing rigorous academic opportunities to all students. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. If you'd like to engage on this work further, please don't hesitate to reach out to our research and data team. I'll be on leave until later in the spring, but either of my wonderful colleagues, Mingyu and Courtney, would love to connect with you. Thanks again, and I hope 2025 has been off to a great start for all of you.